Oh boy, I hope this isn't another silent Raylib project. Oh my god. For even the most basic Raylib project, you are going to interface with these two structs, the sound and music struct. The sound struct is a holder of an audio stream, which is loaded from common sound effect files you might use, OGG, WAV. These are usually short sounds, maybe a couple of seconds at the absolute most, or according to this clear direction, less than 10 seconds, because anything 10 seconds or longer is going to take up enough space that we're actually going to want to stream those things. Typically, that's your background music or even your extended stings during a game. The interface for playing sound versus music is slightly different, but they're both very simple and they both have a lot of the same controls. Of course, like everything else in Raylib, we don't interface with these types by creating the structs manually. There are functions for that. Starting with sound, we have the load sound function, which takes the path to the sound asset and will return a struct that refers to the sound. If instead your sound is being packed into some kind of asset blob or asset library, if you have a more advanced project setup, then you'll be loading from Wave or possibly from another sound. In the case of loading from a wave, you may be working with a sound where the source of the data is actually changing. It's being driven by some kind of user choice. And in that case, you may occasionally need to use update sound. For most basic cases, you are just going to be using the regular load sound function and loading from an asset. But what type of asset? Once you've loaded your sound, for sake of conversation, let's say it's a WAV file, then all you need to do is call play sound, pass the sound in, and it should play the sound as expected. There is the option to set a sound volume, but of course it makes the most sense to have the authored sound to be as loud as you would ever expect it to be in the game, and just from a pure design standpoint, try not to make that super crazy. If it's a particularly long sound, you may need to make use of these stop, pause, and resume sound functions. The set sound volume, pitch, and pan functions are going to be very useful for if you have a sound that plays very often in your game and you want to throw a little bit of variety into the sound, because if it's the exact same sound over and over again, it can be kind of annoying. In the case of music, it is slightly more work. We do have the standard load music stream, which is going to return the music struct, and we do have play music stream, but unlike those, we also have this update music stream. The reason for this isn't exactly simple. I mean, I'm not an audio engineer, so I'm not going to get too far into it, but the idea is that we're only loading a small portion of the song at any given time, and we're only communicating a small portion of that song to the audio module to actually play the sound to the user. In essence, you don't need to worry about a lot of that stuff. Just call this every frame. The data that's included inside the music struct, that's all managed. You just have to make sure this gets called every frame, so there is some time dedicated to doing that. Same as the sound, we have a stop, pause, and resume music stream. These are a little bit more plainly obvious as to what the benefit is going to be compared to the sound, where it's mostly probably going to be a 2-second or 3-second sound. We also have the same set volume, pitch, and pan functions. What's new is seek music stream, which is going to allow us to actually skip to a specific point in the song. This might be really helpful if you want to write some kind of A-B repeat system where your song has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the middle loops, or you jump between points in that middle song. We also have a get music time length and get music time played, which is going to allow us to figure out where in the song we are. We're going to implement all of these music stream functions into a really simple audio player later in this video, but first, let's look at the basics. We're going to load a sound, we're going to load a music stream, and we're going to play both of them. As is typical, I have a music and sound struct, one of each, declared at the top of this file here. And we're calling the basic load functions for each of them. So for music, it's load music stream, and for sound, it's load sound. And here we can see in my resources folder, I have the music XM and sound.wav. As I had said, it's important in our loop that we call this update music stream, because that's what's going to allow the music stream, the streamed data, to advance through the file as the song is played. Now, because the logic to draw my little sample that I built with RayGUI takes up a bunch of space, I put the actual drawing of the menu in a separate file. The thing we're concerned about is these two if statements down here. I've got a larger video planned with more information about RayGUI. All you need to worry about is the logic inside this if statement is only executed on the frame the button is pressed. The first button says play sound and calls the play sound function, and the second button says toggle music and calls the toggle music function. This function basically just makes it so that when we click the button, it'll start the music, and if it's already playing, it'll stop it. Now, it does use a static bool. This is not like a great solution if you have multiple tracks in your game. It's actually totally not going to work if you have multiple tracks. And because we have the music stream is playing function, is music stream playing, you should use this function instead. This is just, I know there's one track in my example, so I don't need to worry about that. So let's check out this example. So we have two buttons. If I click play sound, ooh, yep, that's still really loud. And if I click toggle music, this is the absolute basic thing. If what you need to know was how to load a sound and play it, then you're done. You can stop watching now. But I'm going to keep going because I have a second demo that I prepared that just has a couple more controls, and we're going to add a little bit more data to that so that we have some live coding. So this is my more updated demo. As we can see here, one of the main things that I had to add, and this is the first thing I added, is we needed some volume sliders because, wow, those sounds and music were very loud. So we can adjust the volume slider as needed, and we can just click play sound, and it's still so loud. Like, it's truly amazing how loud that is, even with the volume at half. So the music volume we can change while the music is playing, as you can see. And we've also got a little progress bar with a seek option, and I can actually click and seek the music, no problem. Now, because of the way I set this up, there's a bit of an issue if I hold the seek button. Yeah, so don't do that. That's annoying. A lot of this stuff is very Ray GUI heavy. I'm working with slider bars and things of that nature, but I just wanted to jump in here and add a couple more features so that we can just see how some of the other functions work. So I'm thinking I'm going to widen these two boxes so that next to the seek here, I can put a sort of time out of time, like, 5 seconds out of 1 minute, 20 seconds, just so that we can see what position we've seeked to a little bit more precisely than just sort of, it's easy to visualize. This is the beginning of the track. This is the end of the track, but I'd like to know where we are in the track and how long the track is. A little bit of playing around to get it to format the way that I like, but there we have it. We got the sort of time played and the time total, and we can see that it responds nicely to us seeking to different parts of the song. Just for fun, we're going to do one more thing here. I'm going to add the pitch and pan options because we have the volume. Let's add pitch and pan just for the music. I'm not going to do it for the sound effects as well. Damn, that sounds crazy. Either my headphones are not, either I've got my stereo backwards, or the pan isn't exactly what I expected. But this is an extremely important part of figuring out, like this is what you should do before you go too crazy with any feature of Raylib. I gotta turn this off. It is play around with how it works, get a feel for what it expects. Well, there you have it. It works exactly how you'd expect, except that it doesn't, because the music pan, I guess, as the number increases, it goes left. I would have thought it goes right, but I don't know. I guess I'm right-handed, and that explains it. Something I didn't talk about earlier that's pretty important is something, it's kind of a limitation of sounds. So if I try to spam play sound, spamming the sound just restarts the sound, because the audio that the sound is playing from is shared among every time you press play sound. It's restarting playing the sound. It's not creating some kind of new object that it's playing the sound from, and then it gets destroyed automatically later. So just a general note, if you intend to have a sound being played multiple times and sort of overlapping with itself, and that's the behavior that you want, you will need to write some additional logic. I think that's what this load sound alias is used for, but the sound that I have right now, it's not really the right thing to try for it, so give it a shot and let me know in the comments. It's also definitely something I'm going to cover in a later video. I'll definitely talk more about sound effects and about more elaborate sound effect techniques and in future videos where we're actually adding sounds to a game, but this is just an overview of how it works. Stay tuned into the channel by clicking subscribe, and thanks for watching.